Hi, welcome to the Commercial Gas Engineer channel. Just going to take you through some servicing I carried out at a church building. So first of all, I had a look in the gas meter cupboard to see what was happening. I'm looking if the pipework is sleeved coming in, checking if the regulator has its tag on it, directional tape on the ECV. I'm also looking to see if there was a gas meter sign on the meter. Then I came to the Drugastar G8T. So got 3 of these units to service. Just having a little look at the gas pipe, having a look at the pilots, just a little general look before I touch anything. Temperature in the building. There's also a 24 kilowatt Duotech, Potterton Duotech in the kitchen that I have to look at. So I'm just having a look, making sure things are working. Okay, just still checking the pipe work, seeing its filter, having a look, a little visual inspection before I get the tools out. Okay, so this is one of the units. Just having a look at the CO levels, quite low on this one. Waiting for the flue temperature to get up. And then I saw that the gas pipe, which was once sleeved and protected, has no longer got any protection on it. So I've put that in the notes for that to be covered up. So here we go. Here's the unit. We have the above working pressure and then below burner pressure. You've got the solenoid down there. And just behind the solenoid you can see some of the details from the unit, such as the 13.8 millibar burner pressure that the manufacturers desire. This is permanent pilot, this unit. The spark on all 3 of the warm air heaters need repairs on them. So I was carrying out a working pressure test on all the units to see what kind of working pressure we had, and 21.2 millibar was quite good. A lot of the pipework was run from 35 millimeters in 35 millimeter pipe. And then now this is the burner pressure. And the burner pressure, initial burner pressure I was getting was about 10 millibar, so not in line with the manufacturer's recommendations of 13.8, so I tweaked that up. At the same time, I have to also ensure that the combustion is adequate and the carbon monoxide levels are low as possible. Here we go, 13.8. But the boxing on the other side of the building was excellent. You can see the gas pipework has been protected throughout the run. After making an adjustment to the burner pressure on this unit, my CO levels were still quite low, so I was quite happy with that. I'm just waiting for my flue temperature to go up, and then I will print this reading off. We ended up with a final reading on that unit. Burner pressure 13.8 and CO levels were as low as 4 parts per million. And the ratio 0.0000. So I was happy with that. Then also remember to just spray your test points afterwards and then turn them back on and to ensure that they're gas tight. So I'm checking the working pressure on another one of the warm air heaters, and then I began to check the burner pressure on one of the warm air heaters, and I had, starting off, I had 12.4. So what I did is I began to increase it. Well, I had a little look here and I could see that, yep, it was definitely meant to be 13.8 millibar, as you can see there. But that's so long as I can get my combustion correct. So I tried to make this one warm air heater number 3 in line with the manufacturer's burner pressure, but then I had a problem once I did that, as you will shortly see. It's hard to get these spot on at times. You have to just get them as close as you can. Remember to put LDF on there. So here we go. After making an adjustment to the burner pressure, let's see what our combustion is now. So after doing that, I ended up with a lot more CO than before making an adjustment. So I gave it a chance to stabilize, but it still wasn't dropping, and obviously the ratio was up as well. So what I did is I tweaked the burner pressure, brought it back down to 12.10, and then these are my final readings from beginning to adjusting it and then after dropping it down again. And so I had from 86 to 125 down to 4 parts per million CO. Now I'm waiting for warm air unit number 1 to show me its working pressure. And it was reasonably good. And then now my burner pressure on warm air heater number 1 was 12.6 initially, then 12.7, making its way up to 12.8. Had a look at inside to have a look at the flame picture, which looks good through the sight glass. Then I was curious as well to see how much heat was coming off these units when they initially start up. Over 200 Celsius. So if you touch the surface, you're definitely going to get burnt. So the protective, the guard over it helps. So this is the final reading I got. I had quite low CO, so I was happy with this reading. This is some of the gas pipe coming up. It leaves the meter in 35 mil, but then I saw it coming up through the floor in 28, and then it drops down to 22 eventually, then to 15 mil. So here I am now carrying out a tightness test at the meter. I've shut off all my permanent pilots, and I've also shut off my boiler in the kitchen, and I'm carrying out a tightness test. I also sprayed the anaconda and the regulator as well. So here we have it. A standard 262 test on this meter was carried out, and here's the meter in question. I carried out also a test to see how much the permanent pilots were using up. I was interested, and it was taking about 13.5 minutes for it to make one complete revolution on this foot meter, whilst all 3 warm air heaters were in permanent pilot mode. So I was interested in that, considering it's summer, but I know the users find it difficult to get the unit into to light the unit because the spark isn't any good. The sparks could be replaced at some point, but it's still quite long-winded lighting up the units that way, so it's easier for them to keep the permanent pilot on. And these units are quite efficient, a lot more efficient than I realized. They're when burning gas, other than the pilot light being on permanently, when it is actually being used, these units I was getting from 81.2 on warm air heater number 1 for efficiency, and then 81.6 and then 78.7, so quite high efficiency for such old units. And then this is me lighting them, as the spark was not good on any of them, so I was lighting them myself, relighting them. So here we go. And then whilst lighting this one, I remembered that I need to clean up the thermocouples, because you can see a bit of muck on that thermocouple there. So I gave them a clean with my brush. So here we go. Not sure what you can see here. Get the light on. So giving it a little brush. I could have pulled the pilot assembly out, but I didn't want to go through taking it all out and having everything back on and so on, and checking for tightness and so on. So I just got the brush in and gave the thermocouple a little brush down, and you can see it's a bit cleaner now. And here's another unit. Where the thermocouple has been cleaned. And then now moving on to the boiler. So first of all, before I even started to use the boiler, I wanted to see if within 1 minute I could get 60 Celsius from the furthest outlet. So I started my test. This isn't the best apparatus for testing hot water, but it's still quite close in terms of accuracy. But for my own purposes, it's good. Not for anything official, for any official records of Legionella testing, but I wanted to see how quick the water would get. There are other types of thermometers that you can use that are more precise for this application. Ones that actually go into the that make contact with the running water. So the test did take about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes for the hot water to get hot. The water sometimes goes a week or so without being used. So it is advisable in commercial buildings to run hot water taps and carry out a tap flushing. This boiler doesn't have any sort of preheat on it, but it would be better if they had a secondary return, but it would be an even greater waste of gas if you had that in this building. So this hot water outlet is the furthest one away from the boiler. So it eventually made its way up to 55 Celsius, 54, 55 Celsius, and then peaked at 55. Here I am carrying out flue gas analysis of the unit. So I had the hot water running and I had the boiler in service mode. So it's the hot water symbol to get into high fire. And then you use the heating one to bring it into high or low. And then I had the unit in high fire, and then now I'm tweaking it down to low fire. It's advisable to remove the diverter valve actuator and leave like a hot water tap running. It's not easy carrying out some of these on a hot day like today's scorcher, because you don't want the building to get too hot. Even with the warm air heaters, I didn't want to leave them on for too long. So here's a little bit of advice from the manufacturers as to the basic working pressures that you should have at the appliance, and also from the meter, the amount of pressure drop you should have, the allowance. And here also is some guidance as to flue integrity, and then also some details into how to get the boiler into high and low rate. So I'm here checking the flue integrity. Our flue integrity looks great. And now I'm carrying out a working pressure test from the meter. Okay, I've got the gas isolated now, and I'm gonna do some work on this unit. Get my gloves out, remove the fuse, and try to have at least 2 points of isolation. So I've isolated the boiler, fuse spur, and I've also isolated the boiler's power supply. Okay, so the burner is removed. And here's a look inside. It's not too dirty. The boiler's about 3 to 4 years old, I believe. I believe the boiler's about 4 years old. So I've got some distilled vinegar and water, 50-50, and I'm just spraying the unit out. I'm going to let that settle for a while. And remember to clean out the condensate trap afterwards. Let me know what you use to spray down the units. What kind of instruments do you use? So I'm just using a brush on here, not going crazy. Trying to get the residue off. And then I can see that the probes at some point need changing. Just checking the spark distance and the hose of the burner, the insulation, if there's any damage to it. I'm cleaning up my probes because I don't have any spare ones on me, but we'll recommend for the next service before attending for the client to change the ignition probes and detection probes. Have to be gentle with these as to not damage them, especially if when you haven't got any backup on site. Alright, there's the detection probe, giving that a little clean as well. And also spraying the burner with distilled vinegar and water. Giving it a brush down. Remember to be careful with the insulation, especially if you haven't got spare. This is another thing that comes with the service kit. I changed the seal gasket. Remember, we want the window wiper side up on these. It can be a bit finicky at times, but it does go on eventually. Okay, it's ready to go back on. Okay, and then I remember the washer as well that connects to the gas valve. And then connect everything back up. Okay, so we've got our hose back on, and we've got our air pressure switch hoses back on, our probes, everything's tightened back up. Carried out a tightness test, a local one. Okay, now I'm just cleaning out the condensate trap. And then I removed the spark generator to get my gauge on to the expansion vessel. I'm going to drain the unit down, so I've just isolated everything, hot, heating and hot water for the incoming mains, and then just using my hose to drain it down, and then just using this. I had to get my grips on here, unfortunately, because I couldn't get my hand in there. Okay, my hose wasn't fitting in. I brought a little spare one with me rather than the Reagan one that I tend to use. Alright, so pumped up the expansion vessel. I pulled out the plate heat exchanger. It's so quick and easy. It's just might as well with all the muck that goes in these to make the boiler just run more efficiently. And then I just sprayed it with some distilled vinegar and water and left that for a while whilst I was doing other things. The vinegar is not very harsh, is it? It's just a mild acid. So just swiggle that around a bit, and then let the vinegar do its work. And then I also went into the strainer, cleaned the strainer out. The strainer wasn't really dirty for the incoming cold water. Couldn't really see anything inside there. That was quite clean. And then when I finished that, I went to the there was a dead leg on the system on the cold water. So I went to the mains, and this was just a quarter turn mains. So I shut this off in order to cut out a dead leg that was in the kitchen. So that's off. So this is the dead leg in the kitchen. So I'm going to cut that back as close as we can. Ideally it would be good to put a coupling in, but there was a lot of snot behind the pipe and I didn't have much pipe work on me. I went upstairs in the building and just vented the radiators. So they were vented about 2 years ago in November. Then also carried out visual inspection of the flue. There's a bit of white showing, but that's fine. And then the PRV was good, and then after cleaning the boiler out, I also tested it again in high and low, removed my diverter valve actuator. Thank you for joining me. Please leave comments in the section below. Until next time, bye bye bye.